Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
I just want to start with a small, it's called time. Past time is history, future time is speculation, present time is now. Now is the time for living. Loving, sharing, and experiencing. Anticipate the future. Participate in the present. Record an exciting past. Time is of the essence. Now is the time. Time is all we have. Yet there is so little of it. Use it well. Live life to its fullest. I was impressed yesterday. I was trying to think of what I wanted to talk about. And I was impressed yesterday to share the information that I've been gathering on the magnificent Indigos. And I did this talk for one of the health shows that was done recently, but they wanted me to share this with you. I have a whole list of different criteria that identify the different kinds of indigo children that everybody is. The magnificent indigo children. Do you know one? Are you one? These gifted, spiritual, aware children are a resource for our future. Magnificent problem solvers. Does this earth need problem solvers? You bet. 10 years ago, I started to compile material to write a book on trauma and its effects on the child and mother during pregnancy and the birth process. The patterning that is set up in the birth process may interfere with the progression of the life path of the infant. There are no accidents. Many traumatic and dramatic scenarios carry seeds for the issues and lessons both mother and child are facing in their life. While destiny plays a part, there are many man-made traumas that can be avoided and eliminated. These include premature, long labors, breech, and induced, just to mention a few. We all survived the hype over December 21st and the major energy shift we went through. We've moved from the Piscean age into the Aquarian age with a major rush. How many of you feel like the world is spinning and you don't know how to get back in control? Well, it will begin to settle very shortly. However, you have to remember, being in the Aquarian age, more and more changes are happening constantly. We are energetically back to the same patterns and energies as when Christ, Mother Mary, and John the Baptist walked the earth plane. So you're going to hear a lot of information this year during the equinox and all of that, that everything is aligning back on our earth plane because the earth is also shifted off of its axis. So the timing was not when they said it would be. As humanity continues to evolve, each new group of children will have specific characteristics to fulfill their purpose spiritually, moving us out of the old energies of fear, greed, corruption, competition, stress, into the energy of love, integrity, manifestation, and cooperation. These children have been arriving through the last several decades, beginning with the flower children, or the hippies, as most of us knew them. They have come to assist us during this really important time in our planetary evolvement. As they remember, they are connected to the divine and are intuitive and more telepathic and a very sensitive generation. Many have warrior-like personalities, also expressing an obsessive or headstrong with a purpose to change the world from being archaic in education, government, relationships, and healthcare. Look at how many young people are in the news helping others in need, collecting money to assist building schools in Africa. We've got that young lady that comes to our church on a regular basis, and now she's doing all kinds of other things to help our community. I'm constantly getting emails. She sews and does things, and she gathers things and gives them to children in need. I find it fascinating just to watch what these kids are doing. So the first group are the Indigo Scouts. And I would say a lot of us in here are the Scouts. They were born in the 40s to the 60s and approximately 45 to 65 years of age. Many are taking their places as leaders within our communities. They have come in with a life purpose to help as needed. I, as a spiritual leader in the community, have been teaching awareness for 35 plus years. And I had the Alva show for 5.5 years to communicate that we all are gifted. It is identifying where your strengths and awareness and how to find your life purpose. Many have agreed to take ordinary jobs where they can teach a lot of people through encouraging words and uplifting attitudes. How many around you share positive thoughts and encouragements daily? They often know deep down they aren't from Earth. They have a sense that they've been dropped off here on this planet and waiting for someone to take them home. Are you one of these? I feel like I was dropped off. At 3 years old, I would say to my playmates, "Our world is not what you think. Wait till you get older, you'll see." These are the pioneers who are undergoing spiritual and physical transformation, awakening to higher consciousness. They often zoned out for prolonged periods of time in youth, as they were adjusting to higher dimensions. My report cards in grade 2 and 3 was that I was constantly daydreaming. Are you one of these? Obsessive needs to understand what is happening, leading to the mind being overactive with the result of anxieties about pollution, lack of resources, alien technology. This is because they resonate with the levels of group mind, including the part which holds fears and anxieties about survival of the species. Many of these need assistance to change their thoughts and focus more on positive attitudes of life. They often have increased appetite and weight gain. This is because the body needs huge amounts of energy to power the process, and often it helps them to feel more grounded. So if you find that you go through periods of time where you're craving more foods and heavier foods, the potatoes and the root crops, it's because you're feeling too spacey and you need to be grounded more often. The last month, mine has been a thick homemade tomato sandwich for breakfast, fresh out of the garden. Feeling strange electrical waves that are assisting the body to rewire and align to higher energies and vibrations. I'm constantly talking about this because this is one of the things that happens to me on a regular basis. The body eventually acclimatizes to dealing with these energy waves. And there's a whole range of physical sensations and experiences, usually related to detoxification as we change our DNA, RNA, moving into higher consciousness. Joint pain in the knees and hip and headaches, especially at the base of the skull. Also neck and shoulder pains. How many of you are getting frequent headache, dizziness, and spaciness? I call this, hello, is anybody at home in my head? So you have to understand, okay, that the pineal gland is the connection between the physical body and the spiritual world. And often where the neck meets the physical body, okay, where it sits on it, is where we get stuck energy because it's now moving down through the body. It divides and moves down through the body. And in such often, if you're fighting it, you end up with headaches. So if you just acknowledge that you're going through a shift, you'll probably find that you'll be a lot more comfortable with what's going on, okay? And sometimes if you're not feeling grounded, remember I've taught you this technique, just stamp your feet on the ground half a dozen times and it grounds you again, okay? What I find interesting is that with everything that I've been through in the last year, for 3 weeks now I've been surrounded with smoke. And it's so intense, it's a form of protection for me. It's so intense that I actually sneeze half a dozen times a day. And the sneezing is about clearing up energetic blockages within my body. So I don't know how it relates for you. You'll have to find your own pattern and recognize when Spirit's trying to show you something and identify it so that you can work within that energy to move forward. Everyone's different. How you deal with your gifts and everything will be individual to you as a person. Disrupted sleep patterns, often awake at 3 a.m. as the consciousness adapts to lower dimensions at this time. Anyone who knows me well knows I'm often awake in the middle of the night to do lessons or write spiritual talks. Anyone here identify with that? I'm sure there's lots of you. The third eye is the pineal gland, and many spiritual systems recognize this center's association with higher states of awareness, spiritual insight, intuition, and clairvoyance. The chemicals that trigger the dream state peak around 4 p.m. That is why so many have more vivid dreams at this time. It's also why so many more people are ready to cross, because their loved ones, their family, and their friends can reach them at that time to help them move into the light. These sensations tend to increase with the solar flares and the full moons as well. Many of my colleagues and friends call me when they feel this way to check on earthquakes and volcanoes, etc., as I have a posting from the National Weather Station to help me identify what is going on with me. I start to ache somewhere in the body, or I can't function and I feel like a space cadet, and so I go to the computer and check it. For 3 days prior to Japan having the tsunami, I sat in my big chair in the family room crying, being aware that something major was about to happen, not sure what it was, I just knew that it was major. So, the first wave of Indigos was the 1970s, which are 25 to 35 years. The second wave, now you have to understand, it's overlapping, okay? It's not time, it's not set in stone. If everyone came in at the same way at the same time, our world would not function as well as it does. We're constantly coming in drips and drabs in order to move us forward. So the second wave was the 1980s to the 1990s, and they're 8 to 25 years. They're often born to New Age parents and have above average in spiritual awareness with compassion, love, and a desire for harmony. They are extremely intuitive, can sense honesty. You ever listen to these kids? Oh my God. Like a cat or dog can sense fear. They know when they're being lied to, patronized, or manipulated. My son, while in high school, came home to say that he did not want to attend a specific class as he disagreed with how the class was being taught. I encouraged James to do his best and hang in there. And then I went to the school one day to talk to the principal about something, and the teacher that he had the change of attitude with happened to catch me in the main office and said to me, "Mrs. Folks, can I talk to you?" And I said, "Certainly you can." And we went outside the office into a secluded area, and we had a chat, and when we were done, I went, "Oh my God, my son's right." And I went home and I said, "Drop her class. You need the marks somewhere. You can drop her class, but go elsewhere. You don't belong in her classroom." I agree with you 100%. So, it's imperative that we listen to our children. They speak the truth. The majority of teachers are excellent teachers, but you're going to find on occasion that there are students in that class that cannot relate to that student and should be moved out of the classroom. This is why Montessori and unique schools like Waddell in Ajax are needed. They see children as full of potential, competent, capable of building their own theories as partners in the learning process. Their collective purpose is to usher us into a new world of integrity. Boy, isn't that an important word right now. It is in my world. I don't know about yours. This warrior-like spirit is threatening to some adults. They do not have the ability to disassociate from their feelings and pretend like everything is okay unless they are medicated or sedated. To accomplish this, they have tempers and fiery determination. They are often misunderstood and mislabeled as ADD, attention deficit disorder, and attention deficit with hyperactivity disorder. When medicated, they lose their beautiful sensitivity, spiritual gifts, and warrior energy. Doreen Virtue wrote that ADHD should stand for attention dialed into a higher dimension. The majority are natural vegetarians and instinctively know that they need to feed the body. When given proper nutrition, they excel. These kids are the ones that have major issues with glutens and with white sugars. So for those of you that don't know, sugar cane is natural and the body can assimilate it. And you won't have an issue with it, because too many of our population now are becoming diabetic because of the white sugars, the refined sugars, the sucrose, the glucose, the fructose that are in our foods, in all of our processed foods. So sugar cane, bulk barn, gang, bulk barn. I've been working with some of these young people to help them and their parents identify their strengths and get assistance with their weaknesses. Some of these can only read at a grade 1 level, but ask about computers or mechanical equipment. Wow, that's a whole different story. Experts. We have to help them on their journey, for as they find what direction they should be focusing, everything around them falls into place. These are the gifted children that are going to change our world. The rote of the regular schools is not for all of these kids. Some of them can fit into it and work through it, and others can't. They are the special kids. We call them special needs. They're not special needs. They just are aware that they have gifts in different areas, and that's what needs to be addressed. So the Crystals are the late 1990s till now. They have large penetrating eyes and are wise beyond their years. They are known as the peacemakers. Have you noticed where couples have a couple of kids and they're fighting and they don't want to stay together? All of a sudden they have a new child come into the world and their whole household changes and it's filled with love and peace? These are the Crystal children. They bring peace and harmony back to people that belong together. Crystals love water, animals, plants, nature, and rocks. They are generous to a fault. I'm aware of a young man who gives everything away to the mother's chagrin. She has to go out and replace everything from clothing to food supplies. They are highly affectionate and forgiving. They have tremendous telepathic abilities as they can read minds and people's energy. Very interesting, because I was in touch with a couple of parents where the kids would actually, if they didn't like what someone was doing, they would energetically change what was going around that person. And the other child didn't know what was going on. And so I had to explain that they didn't have the right to do that. It was an experience that this other child needed to work through its own soul lessons, and that they needed to understand they shouldn't be doing that. I was asked to assist a young lad in a junior kindergarten. Pencils, pens, loud noises, panic attacks. He had moved here from Yugoslavia. The parents didn't speak much English at all. And I was asked to come in and interpret what was happening to this young lad. Because the parents didn't speak English very well, I asked them to have a couple of interpreters there because I wanted them to totally understand what I was getting. I didn't know what I was into when I started, but I went to the house and I tuned into this young lad, and I saw that he had died very, very violently with the, what are those big guns called?
Cannons?
No, the machines.
Like a cannon?
Tanks.
Oh,
Tanks.
tanks.
Okay. He died in a tank, and it was in tank attacks. Okay, and he had come back very quickly. And his parents decided to move to Canada because they didn't want to be in Yugoslavia during the fighting. But he carried the memory of dying when the tanks were going off. And so when I tuned into him, I saw the past life and all of this, and I explained it to them. And so I had to explain to him that he was safe in Canada. That's why they had brought him here. This would not happen, that the pencils and pens were part of life, part of schooling, and he was going to have to get past this. And he was fine with that. Once he understood, it was past life. It wouldn't happen now. Interestingly enough, 2 years later, this was not done in my home. It was done about half a mile away from my home. And 2 years later, on a Saturday afternoon, I get a knock at the door, and this young lad with the mother was standing there with a new baby in arms. And he said, "Do you remember me?" And I said, "Oh yeah." You know, he said, "I had to find you. My mother has a new baby, and we've got problems with the baby. We need your help." Turned out the new baby was lactose intolerant. So I explained to the mother what was going on, and I haven't heard from them since. New kids, new generation, you just got to be in touch with them so you can help them move forward. When these kids look at you, you realize your soul is being laid bare for these children to see who you truly are. They're happy, delightful, forgiving, and have a purpose of bringing love into families and the world. And the rainbows, 1995 to now. They're the new souls, and they do not carry the karma with them. Therefore, they've never lived on this planet. They choose crystal children as their parents. They are perfectly balanced in male and female energies. These are the healers. Ooh, sorry guys, getting emotional. Breaking down the paradigm of traditional thinking. Rainbows are highly energy. Strong personalities with the ability to shift energy. They want the way they want to meet the highest needs of humanity. The rainbow children can change the colors of their aura depending on their thoughts. The frontal lobe of this children is more extended and processes at a much quicker rate. The differences in their DNA make them much more immune to disease as they grow older. So the majority of us are indigo children. I don't know what category you fit into, and I'm not here to guess. So you have to figure out for yourself. And you could be overlapping with these different areas, okay? But we as indigos are now embracing our mission as avatars to help the world regain peace and harmony. And I hope you find your place in the world. It's not always easy. Thank you.